You know, the world is a stressful place. One minute you can feel anxious and depressed, the other minute you can feel perfectly fine, especially in 2020 when emotions are so mixed. So many of us have this constant fear, something that we're always worried about, something that's chipping away in the back of our minds. And a lot of this stuff isn't even really a big deal. Let's learn how to stop worrying and start living. You know, this world is a stressful place. So many of us have constant fears about things that don't really even matter. So we all have worries. We're human. We're emotionally driven beings. It's no secret, as soon as we hear about an event, we feel a certain type of emotion towards that event. This means the more that we think about something in our life, the more emotionally invested we become in that topic. And the more and more emotion we dump into what we're thinking about, the less logic that we put into it. In return, we stop thinking logically and only act emotionally. When we have something of concern, we tend to ponder about it all day, all night, thinking about how is it gonna affect my future, how is it gonna affect me, how it's gonna affect my family. And then we start to worry about it because we're hoping that we can find a solution to this problem, but we don't know what that solution is. And so it's just a repeated cycle of worrying, where now we've completely removed logical analysis from solving the problem. And most of the time, we're worrying about something that will never happen, or at least won't happen for a very long time. How many of us sit there in the day and daydream and start stressing about something that is practically not going to happen in either your lifetime, to you, and just the chances of it ever occurring in your life are zero. The great philosopher Montaigne once said, "My life has been full of terrible misfortunes, most of which never happened." So if you're an overthinker, this book is perfect for you. All right, let's go over the first point, which is the Willis H. Harris formula. The first step is to analyze fearlessly and honestly the worst case scenario. Figuring out the worst case scenario would take away all of the fear invested in the problem because you're figuring out the worst possible thing that could happen to you in the situation. Step number 2 in this formula is to then accept the worst case scenario. Once you do this, you then are able to prepare yourself on how to counteract this, adjust if this worst case scenario ever happens, and also if it does occur, you're already prepared for it. You've already accepted it. And then step number 3 is to mitigate the chances of the worst case scenario from happening. Okay, great, I figured out what my worst case scenario is. I've accepted it, so if it does happen, I'm not gonna be fazed by it. And 3, I'm gonna try everything in my power to make sure it doesn't happen. But if it does, it's okay because I already accepted that this is the worst thing that could happen if the situation were to continue on further. Now I'm less stressed out because I've already accepted everything that could potentially happen. Point number 2, we can look at something called the law of averages. So think about the worst case scenario, the thing that you're stressing about very much right now, something that's been lingering on your mind. Okay, what are the chances of that actually happening? So many people my age, right? We worry about when are we gonna graduate from college? If we're gonna graduate from college, are we gonna meet the right person? Are we gonna get married? Are we gonna fall in love? Are we gonna find our spouse? Are we gonna find our job? Oh my God, I'm 25 years old. I don't have anything figured out. What's happening? Calm down. Look at the law of averages. There are 8 billion people on this earth, and I can guarantee you a lot of those people you know are adults who are married, have a job, and have graduated college. So anything that you're stressing out on, calm down, figure out what is the actual percentage in chance. Break it down into numbers. Get logical. You can't argue with scientific facts. Look at the averages. How many people actually get married? How many people actually find the love of their life? How many people actually get a job after college? How many people actually graduate who are in college? All these things that people stress about, if you look at the law of averages, the average people, the average amount of times that this actually occurring, you'll figure out that you're stressing for very little reason. It's just the law of averages have to play out first. And the last thing that you need to be doing while you're thinking about those 2 first points is to make sure you're writing every single thing down. Now, I do not exaggerate when I tell you every single little aspect of my life, business, school, finances, whatever, emotion, the way that I'm feeling, I write everything down. You think that I'm kidding. Just some of the stuff. Trust me when I say this, write everything down, because once you do, it's like a math formula. You're writing down your emotions, you're seeing how you're feeling, and you're trying to figure out why you feel that way. Then you can break it down. As soon as you start feeling anxious and depressed, see what was the trigger that caused you to start feeling that way, and then solve for the problem where that's the solution. Writing everything down gives you the chance to look at your thoughts, observe them, break them down, and figure out why you're feeling that way. On top of that, you can trace back, follow your work like a math problem, and figure out what is the solution to my thoughts, and how can I mitigate these thoughts of anxiety, worry, depression maybe, and then also how you could implement new tactics, new strategies into figuring out how can I just be happier? How can I stop worrying? What are the things that I need to do and these things that I just wrote down to not worry about them in the future again? Once we remove emotion from everything, once we analyze our thoughts, we then can start thinking logically, analytically. You can't argue with stats, you can't argue with facts, you can't argue with science. You can only argue based on emotional opinions. You can argue with yourself about these things. The question is can you remove your emotion from your thoughts so you can think clearly? And once you do, I promise you, you'll be able to make the best decisions so you can move on with your life on whatever that you're worried about. And the last step I would really like to talk about is the power of prayer. When you stop and you take a moment to pray, not for him to fix the problem for you, but to help guide you into thinking the right way, praying for wisdom, understanding that God is on my side, he's gonna lead me down the right path. Prayer is a very powerful tool for you to conquer worry, because when you start praying, you really X out everything that's happening in the world and you're kind of focused on just yourself, your inner core. Because prayer, on top of just asking for help from the man up above who controls everything, it also helps you reassess your morals. It helps you reassess what's right in the world, how to help people, and what to do when things get tough. And you just feel like a companion is there for you. You don't feel alone anymore. So my quote of the book, when you're worried, you're not thinking. Really simple, but it's very true. Because when you're constantly worried, you have so much emotions riding on something, that's all it is. It's emotion driven. Stop that. Break down everything, write it down, analyze it, figure out how to mitigate your problems, accept the worst case scenario, promise you everything will be okay, especially about the things that you're worried about that will never happen. Understand that you need to stop worrying and start living. So if you like this content, please leave a like and share with friends and family. I would really appreciate it. Comment down below if you agree with me, if you don't agree with me. Are there things that you do in life to mitigate worry? Are there things that you've tried but it didn't work? I'm curious to know. Send me a DM if you don't want to comment down below and make it public. I'm very interested in hearing your perspective and how you conquered worry. With that said, thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.